Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking on. It is Late Night in America, the American Doofus channel. A time change on a little bit earlier, a couple of hours actually, earlier than we are normally on. And thank you for joining us. Hot Mess Summer. Hello. Hi, Living Grace. Hello to everybody out there watching. It is election night 2022. I voted. I hope you did too. Hello, Mater. Hope everyone is having a great evening. Thank you very much. Hope you are as well. A lot of stuff to get to, as you can expect, on election night. Not only election stuff, some other stuff. Women still have rights in Kentucky. I'm a little disappointed in Kentucky. I'll tell you why when we get there. But yes, Special K, finally I catch a live stream instead of watching next morning. Well, thank you, Special K. Yeah, we are normally on. We're normally on at midnight, and a special live time tonight at 10 p.m. I generally go on at midnight, honestly, because there didn't seem to be anybody else broadcasting at that time. So I thought, people would watch that, didn't have anything else to watch. So that's kind of why I stay around the midnight area. If I get in around here around 10 o'clock, there's a lot of other stuff on. So, hi, the Hayseeds, and hello, LePreux. Good vibes. Yeah, at least women can choose what's right for their bodies. Uh, and I hope that stays that way, Summer. But when when the night ends, and if it goes as I predicted it would go, I haven't been following the races and anything too much, other than what I've been gathering here. But just right here off the top, I predicted. I said it was going to be the Republicans would have 230 seats in the House of Representatives, and the Democrats would have 205. Said it would be 51-49 in the Senate. I didn't say which party would be in control. I said that was going to come down to Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. Um, those three Senate races. And those are just my predictions. Okay, so we'll see how that unfolds as the night goes along as well. Hello, She-Hawk. Hello, Claude. Edomite Claude. Hi, Sissy. Hello, Jeff. Good evening, everybody. We do thank you very much for clicking on here. Hi, Lori Arnold and Rainbow Unicorn Squad. And of course, I imagine some Popcorn Squad people will be in here. Hello, Jeff. Hi, Jungle Jane. And I'll be checking back in with the chat quite a bit throughout the night. I don't know. We've got people watching from all over the place, and I greatly appreciate it. I really do. BTM Sparky. Okay. Okay. Oomph. Peace. Let's see what we got here. Starting things out. Whoa. Okay. Sorry. Tried an adjustment there. All right. Normally I go to the mainstream media and see what their headlines are. We're going to be in the mainstream media quite a bit tonight, checking things out. Not exclusively, of course, but more, let's just say much, much more than normal. So I'm starting out tonight with our Twitter scroll, if I can push the right buttons. There we go. As I said, a lot of election news. Some of the stuff we're going to touch on tonight, not really election related. And we're going to look into a couple of alternatives to alternative lifestyles, if you will, coming up in the next few days. This comes out from The Guardian. Ultimate enemy is women. inside the fear-filled world of incels. Some hammered their own faces to appear more attractive. Others believe they can't be in a room with women. The radicalized men that this person met on their journey to learn about the ins and outs of that community. So we're gonna dig into that a little bit and see what exactly the incels are all about. We're going to talk about some other things coming up after we get done with the elections here, as long as we are not at war. Again, so much talk throughout this day about violence and threats of violence, and I've been around a lot of elections, and nowhere close to anything like this, except maybe 2020. Trump is fixated on challenging the results of Pennsylvania's Senate race, which he views, as one source puts it, as a dress rehearsal for Trump 2024. Trump plans to challenge the election starting in Philly. He's fixated on it, as one source puts it, as a dress rehearsal for Trump 2024. So I guess we interpret that as Trump is going to run in 2024, even though he hadn't formally announced it. We interpret it as he plans on challenging challenging results even before, because this was put out an hour ago, so the results aren't even in yet. And he plans on challenging. What's he going to challenge if his people win? And he's already got this out. As always, we just give you things to think about. Don't tell you what to think or how to think. Maura Healey from Massachusetts becomes the first openly lesbian governor in U.S. history. The House estimate, CBS News 3 hours ago, it was 145 to 165. Again, I've got this at 230 to 205, and here, let me pop this out for a second and see if we have new numbers yet. We don't. Okay. All right. But that's, I'm just showing you this. This is one of the I'll be checking on throughout the night as we do this. And I imagine we're going to have kind of a long show tonight. Normally we start at midnight and we end up at 1:15, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30, depending. Tonight we're starting at 10. We'll probably end up midnight, 12:30, 1 o'clock, depending on what happens with elections and election returns, specifically in Arizona. As I've said before, potential for violence, in my opinion, the three fat states, FAT, Florida, Arizona, and Texas. And things haven't been going well in Arizona, or at least they weren't very early on in this election day. Michigan official says Trump lies encourage violence. And that was 3 hours ago, breaking on Newsweek. I'm not sure exactly which lie they're talking about, or which set of lies, I should say, they're talking about. But a Michigan, and that was a Republican official, by the way, a Michigan Republican official said that the Trump lies were inciting violence, potentially. Spoke with Maricopa County voters. We said that there's been some trouble in Arizona. Maricopa County voters leaving the polls today told me the issue of democracy is driving their decisions. Quote, "For me, it's about maintaining democracy." An independent voter said, "At this point, it's like just trying to stay alive," end quote. And again, this is a Newsweek source. At midterm close, Arizonians vote with fears for democracy. So again, so much, we're so much concerned about chaos and about violence and about civil war. Catholic outlet says violence must be the option if Republicans lose the midterms. Um, Again, this is, church militant host Michael Voris said violence in and of itself is not immoral, as officials warn of potential violence. I can't believe we're at this point. I know I've been talking about it for a long time that we are at this point, but still, it's almost surreal, the reality of it. Republicans file emergency motion to extend Maricopa County voting hours. Again, they had some, I think at one point, 23 to 25% of the Maricopa voting machines in Republican counties, in counties where the Republicans are in charge of the elections, is where all of the voting machines were having problems. Just something to think about. Georgia Senate race, this was 2 hours ago, had Warnock over Walker 64 to 34. We'll get an update on that. That's just, again, one of the key races we're talking about or looking at. There are 3 races that I've said: Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Georgia. I think those 3 decide the Senate. I think the others are pretty well, have been settled for quite some time. It would be a shock if somebody out of the ordinary, if somebody out of the ordinary were to pull an upset. So I'm thinking it's going to be 51-49. It's just a matter of those 3 races and how they play out, who controls the Senate. Mike DeWine's going to get a second term as governor of Ohio, neighboring state to me and a home state to many viewers. And hello, all you Buckeyes. Harris County, Texas voters, court orders Harris County to extend hours for all polling locations. Following a lawsuit because, again, there was a delay in those polls opening. I said I was a little disappointed in Kentucky earlier. Senator Rand Paul won his bid for re-election in Kentucky. There are a few people I really, really do not like in politics, and some are on each side of the aisle. And I would have liked to seen that race come out differently. I'll leave it at that. Trump's Florida residence in Palm Beach County is within the National Hurricane Center's forecast cone of uncertainty. That means they don't know exactly where it's going to hit, but within the cone lies Trump's residence. So there will be those praying very hard that nothing happens to this residence, and there will be those that might be wanting to see a little activity come around that place. We, of course, as always, in all sincerity, hope that nothing happens to anybody, because this storm, the potential for this storm, it's not getting talked about because of the election, but it's kind of weird the way this storm's setting up, and the way it's tracking, and plus a massive cold front's coming down from Washington over the Rockies, and these two, this big wet hurricane smacking into this big giant mass of cold air, and wherever that happens, there's going to be storms, and massive storms, and we'll keep track of all that. But that's then, and this is now. And now, continuing down our scroll, Musk plans to make using Twitter fully paid. The idea is to allow users to use Twitter for free for a period of time before subscription fees are due. So, of course, the whole purpose of buying Twitter was to allow free speech, and it's not hard to see that it's free speech as long as you're willing to pay for it. We've talked about how there may be some things going on in within the Republican Party, some rumblings going on about changes in leadership, about the possibility of Donald Trump being Speaker of the House, and what that might lead to. Um, as these election results come in, keep in mind that if there is a big enough majority of Republicans in both chambers, that talk is going to escalate. I'm just saying, and the talk's already begun. Rick Scott's palace coup is already underway. Hawley, I will not support McConnell for Senate Majority Leader. Now, who's Rick Scott? I want to point out who Rick Scott is. And let me get over to that real quick. Thank you everybody for watching, and everybody in the chat. I'll get into the chat for just a second. I just want you all to be aware of who Rick Scott is, who they are planning to put as the Trump people. Okay, the Trump wing of the Republican Party. This is who they want to be the leader, majority leader of the Senate. Rick Scott. He is the architect of the Republican plan to do away with Social Security and Medicare. All right. It says they float changes. It's not changes. His plan, as he has laid out and is still on his website, is to do away with Social Security and Medicare. So just keep that in mind. That's who Rick Scott is, and you may think it's all about liberty and blah 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 blah, and you may buy all the Trump rhetoric, but you're getting conned, and at some point, having freedom is having the ability to tell people things they don't want to hear. And you may not want to hear that, but you're getting conned. And the longer the con goes, the worse it's going to be for both you and me. Just something to think about. Let's get back to... Here we go. Let's get back to our Twitter scroll, and then I'll hop over into the chat. This came from Lauren Bobbert earlier. They called you cockroaches. They called you cult members. They called you extremists. They called you terrorists. And today we call them losers. That was at 2:43. And Ron, he put, this is who Ron is, by the way: attorney, Marine, triathlete, historian, former federal prosecutor, and a Republican. He's now a defense attorney and a Democrat, and he tracks and reports on the right wing. So, and he put in a comment underneath this in the thread. I didn't call you cockroaches. And then somebody posted where he actually had called them cockroaches. So this is Stop the Steal, post number 6. This was 7 hours ago, by the way. So far today, this is what happens when you aren't held accountable. And this is same thing is happening with voter fraud as happened in 2020. So as I said, this guy right here has been all day long leading up to this, stoking the fire. And then we've got Tucker. Democrats absolutely cannot lose the midterm elections. And with that in mind, they're already preparing us for election theft, which if you don't want a civil war, you must passively accept. So Tucker's saying that Democrats are threatening civil war. Again, you accuse the other side of that which you are doing. It's one of the 4 major rules that the Nazis used as far as propaganda to gain control. 16 incidents of alleged voter intimidation, harassment, or interference of voters and election officials has been reported in North Carolina. Election officials since the start of the in-person voting. 18 complaints of harassment and intimidation have been recorded in Arizona. So between Arizona and North Carolina, 34 reported. That was 12 hours ago. So there's been some stuff going on around the country. If you know something in your area, like I said, I'm getting ready to get back into the chat here in a moment. If you know something that happened in your area, questionable voting wise, get ready to let me know about it when I come back in the chat, please. The assumption that Democrats wouldn't come out in mass today was incorrect. A lot of folks who make millions predicting elections are about to be embarrassed. That was 7 hours ago. We'll see. We'll see. A disturbing new incident report from North Carolina. Mass reports of harassment and intimidation at polls. At least one voter was stalked from the voting location back to their home. So that's not cool. Just not. Here we've been talking about Maricopa County, and let's see.
Of course, I know everybody wants to make sure that it reads and everything is fine.
Can you repeat that?
I can promise
Can you start from the beginning and repeat that?
So what happens in tabulators? One of the tabulators is not working, okay? The other tabulator is taking about 75% successful. So 25% of them are being misread, and it could be a printer issue, or it could be the tabulator itself. So when it's misread, you have an option to put it into what's called box 3, and it gets read, whether it goes downtown and gets read manually, or whether it gets refed into our tabulator.
You don't want to adjudicate.
They get read, okay? So no one's trying to deceive anyone.
Of course not. Not on election day. That would never happen, right? No, that would never happen.
So choices are, you guys.
Question.
Sure.
If I get up there and that happens to my ballot, can I take my ballot with me and go somewhere else?
You cannot leave the premises with a ballot.
Because I don't trust to go in a box. The box may never make
No,
it down.
no way.
All the time. I'll come back.
The choice is to wait until.
There you go. So that particular Republican site, again, the elections there are controlled by Republicans, and other Republicans are not happy with what was happening there. Carrie Lake, who's candidate for governor, and who, if she gets beat, she has said she's not accepting the results. And with what we see happening here is just going to lay more fuel on that fire. And she will either call for a uprising herself, or someone within the ranks will. That's one of the main reasons I'm saying if there is violence, and of course we all pray there isn't. Those of us that pray there isn't. If she gets beat, that's a real potential there. In my analysis of all of this, and again, this is the reasons why I feel that is a possibility. She says, I'm getting flooded with calls and texts from people who are having trouble voting. This is why we must reform our elections. So here she is again. She's going full carry, according to Ron. She is complaining that Democratic counties run their elections more smoothly than Republican ones. So her voters and Republican-run counties are getting hosed by Republican incompetence. And I guess that's a legitimate way of looking at it. Now, this is troubling. Iran votes to execute protesters. says rebels need, quote, hard lesson, end quote. Iran votes to execute protesters. There are about 15,000 of them that they are going to be executing that have been arrested in connection with protesters. 15,000. We take our freedoms here too often for granted, and we're reminded of that yet again right here on our election day. Georgia's largest county removed 2 poll workers from their jobs just before polls opened today after staff found Facebook posts from the mother and son showing them participating in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Again, that was in Georgia, and that was 7 hours ago. Man shot in a parking lot in Pennsylvania. Random bystander starts performing CPR on the victim. Third guy comes up and tells him to get off, and then pushes him violently off of the victim to the ground. The Good Samaritan hits his head and dies. And the person that did the shoving was a plainclothes police officer. And that's from WPXI.com, Beaver County District Attorney's Office in Pennsylvania. Also, not election related, Russian military aircraft delivered 140 million euros in cash and 3 models of UK and US weapons captured in Ukraine to an airport in Tehran on August 20th. And this comes out of Sky News. Sky News is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who also owns Fox, and they're citing unnamed sources with security services. Donald Trump on Ron DeSantis running against him for president. Quote, if he did run, I would tell you things about him that won't be flattering. Of course he will. He said Ted Cruz's dad was responsible for the JFK assassination, and Cruz still licks his boots. It just gives you something to think about. I know more about him than anybody other than perhaps his wife. His wife is really running his campaign, ends the quote. And this comes from the wallstreetjournal.com. I didn't want to bring that up. There we go. Comes from the wallstreetjournal.com. Also from Trump. Okay, this is the same. All right, this is the same report. Sky News reports Russia money in cash, which we have just told you about. And Russia flew it to Iran, again, in part of a deal in exchange for ballistic missiles and for drones. And we've been talking that, Ukraine is reaching out to Israel saying, hey, you should be our ally. You should help us out because we have mutual enemies. And Israel doesn't want to provide weapons to Ukraine. One of the reasons possibly is because if those weapons were to get captured, they would be turned over to Iran. Again, things are never just clear cut. Things are never obvious. There are so many layers to everything goes on, especially when it comes to geopolitical situations. Reports 7 hours ago, reports coming in from Arizona voting machines are not properly working. And here's what Trump said. Reports are coming in from Arizona voting machines are not properly working in predominantly Republican conservative areas. Can this possibly be true when a vast majority of Republicans waited for today to vote? Question mark. Here we go again, question mark. The people will not stand for it. Again, trying to rile voters up. And all they've done, they've got themselves caught in their own lies. That mail-in ballots aren't safe. That early voting isn't safe, that all of this stuff, that the only, you can only vote on election day and all the votes have to be counted on election day. Well, first of all, counting on the votes on election day in some places is not feasibly possible because of the vast amount of geography we're talking about. The fact that Trump himself has gotten everybody so twisted up into thinking that the way things have been done for a very long time was not secure, has basically come back to bite them. And we'll see how it plays out. It's early yet. It's only 10:35 Eastern Standard Time. And again, hello everybody. Thank you for watching. We're just getting started. I'm not even through the bookmark scroll yet. Again, right-wingers pounce on this pushing election conspiracies. All right, doesn't it? Don't pay no attention to the fact that it's our own people that are screwing all this up. We're going to have conspiracies about how that all the Republicans, it was Democrats dressed as Republicans that screwed this up. They'll be pushing conspiracy theories based on the facts that things got screwed up in their own areas. And once again, we'll just remind you of the scientific principles of how to determine the amount of FA it takes before you actually FO. And we find that it is relatively symmetrical in definition. So that is a look at our Twitter scroll for this election night. Just kind of getting things started here. And I know I missed a bunch of people in chat. Hi, Nurse D. How are you? Wendy Spears. I early voted as well, Wendy. It's much more than Biden. Pennsylvania is red mostly. Most states are red, except for the areas where the cities are. That's where most of the Democratic votes come from, urban areas, and most states in between those urban areas are red, and it's just a matter of how many people are living in the cities. So it's not a red tsunami, more like a pantry liner kind of day. Both sides have been claiming fraud, and they will. Everyone knows what Biden has not been a good president. On the other hand, no one wants Trump or the MAGA Republicans running the country, and that's pure and simple the way it is. You can't say no one, Guy, because there are a lot of people that want Trump to be king. As bizarre and absurd as that seems to many normal Americans, it's a fact. So we can't say that no one. There are people that do. Hopefully that number is really insignificant. It's really loud. We know they're really loud, and we know they're really angry. What we don't know is how many of them there really are, and hopefully we never really find out. But yeah, I would say a majority of Americans are ready for a 2024 where the choices, where Trump or Biden, neither one are a choice, where we've got two fresh choices at least. It'd be nice to have more than that, but that's a whole nother episode. Maryland got its first black governor. Yes. Yes, we did. I haven't got to that yet. I got to the first lesbian governor, but first black governor as well. And it saddens me, because it doesn't sadden me that a black person is governor, don't get me wrong. It saddens me because that triumph is being overshadowed. It's being said that the only reason that Maryland got its first black governor is because how bad Trump's endorsement hurt the former governor. And I think that's just, that's just, it's just crap, and it just takes away from the actual validity and importance of that triumph. I would love new choices. Alabama's going to hell in a handbasket. I love black people. When I personally, you don't hear me talk about it a lot. You don't hear me talk about it very rarely. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in God, and I also believe that if you are a Christian, you don't get to choose what color of people you love. The Bible doesn't say anything about that. The Bible says love everybody. And I'm not going to get into the pulpit. I'm just going to remind you and leave that kind of lay there as something to think about. Cox was an awful candidate in Maryland, glad for more. I seem to love those that care, kind, and smile. Yeah, some people are easy to love. Some people not so much. The same as Dark Brandon, but I think the Brandon thing is played out. Yeah, there are some things that are like, okay, yeah, it's something that you need to. At the same time, we've talked about this before. I don't know what exactly it is, but it seems like the right get just like so wrapped up with one thing, like this Brandon thing. Anytime let's go Brandon, everybody and it's you would think it wouldn't be funny anymore because you know what's coming. You would think they would want some other something else to spark inspiration, to make humor. And we talk a lot about that, about how that side doesn't do that so well, and how the other side, the left side, the red or the blue side, or whatever terms you want to use, how the creativity and sometimes and oftentimes genius just explodes from all over the place. So Biden did was fire Trump. One great thing Biden did was fire Trump. Another great thing he did was allow me to sleep better every night. The Brandon thing is so stupid, goes to show their brain power and adultness. I mean, it's cool. I don't get triggered by it. I don't get triggered by much anything, honestly. But yeah, it just seems like it's kind of, it seemed like you'd be tired of it, and you'd want something new. And again, I know there's going to be people with all different kinds of perspectives in the chat. So just everybody's going to have, or people are going to have differences. Just no hate, no threats. The creative artists are mostly more left? ? I don't know. It sure seemed to be that way, Lori. When you think about, and I'm just referencing what we've, what we've all been watching, and what you have been a major star of, this internet drama that became must-see TV, or must-see viewing. But a lot of people view us on big screens, which I think is pretty cool. So thank you everybody doing that. But it just seemed like it, when you think the only people even trying to do comedy on the right side was One Nation. No, not One Nation. One American No Party, and the lady, Jay Lynn, and then you got Johnny Ray and the Hayseeds. Um, you got Carl. You had BTM doing comedy stuff. You had everybody that was on that comedy special. So it just seemed a little out of balance as far, or at least that was. Right sucks at humor and creativity. Um, we're not going to get real change until we can all come together. And meanwhile, another prime example. Thank you, baby. Um, we aren't going to get real change until we all come together and we actually utilize the power that we would have if that were to happen. Um, but what happens is they keep us split apart so that we are focused more often than not on each other instead of on all of them, no matter which side they are on. Green Acres is the place to be. Yeah, that to me that again to me that was the gag of all gags for that particular. And it's still ongoing. I talk about it as it's totally done, but the 1776 and their opposition, um, the Green Acres. Oh, yeah, that was the greatest. Humor can bring people together. Music can bring people together. Um, oh, I like reenactment with dolls too. Dr. Justice, Weed Tifa, Jerry Garcia and Baldy Banks. Um, Jeez, I know I'm forgetting people, but um, some incredible comedy stuff. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to check in and see what's going on election wise, and if there's anything I need to pull up and display here at the moment. Um 89-year-old U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican, one of the oldest members of Congress, has won his reelection. U.S. Senator Maggie Hansen, Democrat from New Hampshire, has won reelection. Current results for the Senate as of 18 minutes ago: Democrats have 42 Senate seats, Republicans have 41. The House, as far as 18 minutes ago, also 94 Republican seats, 51 Democrat seats. So again, we'll keep an eye on all of this. Elaine Luria, a Democrat, a member of the January 6th committee, has been voted out of office. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has won re-election. Dan Crenshaw, Republican, wins re-election to the U.S. House. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt wins re-election, defeating Joy Hoffmeister. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, a Republican, wins re-election. Maryland votes to legalize marijuana. I can imagine there will be some people, some of you that watch this stream that are going to be sparking up here legally. So good for all of you that partake in that now you can do so legally. U.S. Senator Michael Bennet, Democrat, wins re-election. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp wins re-election, defeating Stacey Abrams, Democrat. That was one I thought the Democrats might win. Far-right Republican Paul Gosar wins re-election to the U.S. House. Texas Governor Greg Abbott wins re-election, defeating Beto O'Rourke. It's not going to be a good night for Democrats. Ian Omar, Democrat, wins re-election to the House. Alexander AOC, as you all know her, wins re-election to her House seat. Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader for the moment, wins re-election. Joe Wilson, Republican, best known for shouting "You lie" during President Obama's speech back in 2009. That's what he's best known for. That's just freaking sad that this guy's been elected to Congress 6 times, and he's best known for yelling "You lie." Anyway, he won re-election in his seat, in his district. Ohio bans non-citizens from voting in local elections. Jim Clyburn, House Majority Whip, won re-election. Jim Jordan wins re-election to the U.S. House. 85-year-old Bill Pascrell from New Jersey, one of the oldest members of Congress, wins re-election to the House. Matt Gaetz wins re-election in Florida. Former White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders has been elected Arkansas's governor. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. One of these days, I'm going to tell some stories. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Democrat, wins re-election to the House, and again, we've already touched on this. Maria Healey from Massachusetts becomes the first openly lesbian governor in U.S. history. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio wins re-election. Ron DeSantis wins re-election. Maxwell Frost, Democrat from Florida, wins a U.S. House seat, making him the first member of Generation Z to win a seat in Congress. DeSantis won rather handily, it looks like. Senator Rand Paul, again, really disappointing in Kentucky. Marjorie Taylor Greene wins re-election. Polls are starting to close in, two people killed in apparent murder-suicide at a Dallas coroner's office. Shooting reported at Dallas County Medical Examiner's office. Bitcoin continues to drop, falling nearly 16% to reach 17,484. Hasn't been that low in quite some time. School shooting in Seattle. One victim in critical condition. Ingram High School in Seattle. Suspect in custody. So that gives us a little rundown of what's been happening election-wise. Okay, they've got it marked private now. I was going to show what was going on with. I was going to show what was going on with Right Side Broadcasting, the My Pillow guys channel, but they've switched